With last month's induction of Sergei Brylin into the Devils Ring of Honor, me and some of my Devil fan friends were discussing recently who should the next guy or guys be that are inducted into the ring. And I do think there's going to be a lot of opinions on this topic, a lot of different viewpoints. I do think Sarge was the perfect next inductee because he is the only player on the 3 Cup teams who doesn't have his jersey retired. And I think the Ring of Honor was the perfect recognition for Sarge. He rightfully belonged there, and now he is in the Ring of Honor. But it brings me to now, who are some other guys that should be in the Ring of Honor? And I got to thinking, and me and some of my buddies were talking, and there's a couple issues with the whole overall thing. And one is that the size of these Ring of Honor displays, they're more prominent to me than the rafters, than the banners are on the rafters. There's so many banners, they kind of get lost. The Ring of Honor is like a massive placard situation, like in the back of the sections. So if you didn't know anything, I'd imagine if you didn't know anything and you came to The Rock, you might think John McMullen and Sergei Brylin are the 2 most important people in Devils history because there's this huge, pronounced, whole section kind of display for them, whereas the other guys have banners that are just kind of lost up in the rafters. So I don't know. But with these things being so big, I don't know how many they could really have, or if they're eventually going to move to some sort of smaller displays that they can fit more guys. But, the Devils have a very rich franchise history, despite being only 41 years old, which is fairly young compared to some of the other teams. But with our history and success, there's a lot of guys that I think do belong in the Ring of Honor. And I'm firstly here going to start off with non-players. So to me, there's a crop of non-players that essentially, to me, 100% belong in the Ring of Honor. And in no particular order, I'm going to go over them right now. Chico Resch. Chico Resch played for the Devils. He's been a broadcaster. He's been around the organization for 40 years. One of the greatest hockey personalities and stewards of the game. Great storyteller. Will stop and talk to you, sign an autograph, sign a photo. One of the greatest guys that I've ever met in hockey. Super friendly, super approachable, all-around great guy. Everyone loves Chico. He's been with the organization in some capacity for so long. Chico Resch, to me, belongs in the Ring of Honor. And how can you mention Chico without mentioning his longtime partner, Mike Doc Emmerich? Doc is hands down the greatest to ever do it. We were so lucky and spoiled to have him as our play-by-play announcer for all those years before eventually he was stolen by the big network NBC, and he was doing Olympics and all the playoff games and cup finals. Doc is a national treasure, and he 100% also belongs in the Ring of Honor. On to the next gentleman here, without being said, Lou Lamoriello, the architect of the entire dynasty. 3 Stanley Cups, loads of playoff runs. Lou Lamoriello, obviously, at some point, will be inducted into the Ring of Honor. I personally would probably wait, and I think the team would as well, wait till he's retired to put him in the ring. I wouldn't want to do it while he's still with another organization, or organization for my Canadian friends. So I think Lou is a shoo-in lock for the Ring of Honor. It's just a matter of timing and when, but I suspect the team would wait until he's retired, and I think that's a logical decision for Lou. But Lou is 100% going in the ring. Coach Jacques Lemaire is the next on my list. The genius who brought the hated trap to New Jersey and kind of laid the foundation for the core group with Stevens, Niedermeyer, Dano, Marty. And Jacques Lemaire brings us our first Stanley Cup championship in 1995, integral figure in the history of the New Jersey Devils, and he also belongs in the Ring of Honor. And on to the next coach, Larry Robinson, absolute legend, involved with all 3 Devils Stanley Cup victories. He was an assistant coach in 1995 when we won our first one. He took over for the fired Robbie Ftorek during the 2000 season and led the Devils to their second Stanley Cup with an amazing come-from-behind series victory, down 3-1 in the Eastern Conference Finals to the Philadelphia Flyers. Very historic stories have come out about how Larry approached the team after Game 4 and we were down 3-1. We win 2 more games to tie it up at 3-3 and then go on to win an epic Game 7 on the road in Philly. Stevens knocks Lindros out. The rest is history. Devils go on to win their 2nd cup. Jason Arnott in Dallas. And Larry was also an assistant coach on the 2003 team. So without a doubt, to me, one of the most decorated, winningest, legendary figures in all of hockey history. Larry Robinson has 1,000,000 Stanley Cup rings from his playing days, his coaching days, and the guy's an absolute legend. Larry Robinson will be in the Ring of Honor at some point as well. And lastly, rounding out my non-player list, I think Burnsy, Pat Burns, the head coach of the 2003 Stanley Cup New Jersey Devils, belongs in the Ring of Honor as well. Pat Burns, by most accounts, was not always the easiest to deal with for a lot of the players. He demanded a lot of his players, got in their face, was very loud and aggressive. There's epic stories out there of different guys getting into shouting matches with Burns, but a lot of them have also said that he got the most out of them and was integral in shaping their careers or their seasons, whatever it was. And Pat Burns, the late Pat Burns, also belongs in the Devils Ring of Honor. And that concludes my non-players list. And now on to the players that I believe belong in the Ring of Honor. For me personally, when I think about this topic and think about the guys that should be forever immortalized in something like this, I put my number one criteria or anything is, did you win? Did you hoist the Lord Stanley's Cup in a Devils jersey? And that's why they play the games, to win the cup. That's it. Individual stats and goals, points, that's all very nice. But in the end, did you win? And that's what it comes down to for me. And with that being said, my list is comprised of winners. Winners at the highest level and 2-time winners. So, again, in no particular order, my first player on the list is Claudelemieux. Claudelemieux, for the older fans know, absolute Devils legend. Played 423 regular season games for the Devils. Won the Cup in both 1995 and 2000 with the Devils, winning the Conn Smythe as MVP in 1995. We do not win that Stanley Cup without Claudelemieux. And absolute legend. When I think of Devils playoff moments, Claudelemieux is right there towards the top of the list. He had 57 points in 82 playoff games played as New Jersey Devil. Claudelemieux, my first on this list here, induction into the Ring of Honor. And now we're just going to keep going with these 2-time Cup champions. The next one on my list, Randymckay. Randymckay, another absolute tough guy legend. 1/3 of the famous crash line in 1995. That was a huge part in the Devils capturing their first Stanley Cup. Widely considered one of the best 4th lines in NHL history. Don't tell Bobby Holik it's a 4th line. He will take insult to that and maybe crush you with his man hands. But what a run in 95. Crash line being a big part of it. And then Randy was here when we won the Cup in 2000 as well. Randy played 760 career regular season games for the Devils, and he played 116 playoff games as a Devil, recording 42 points in those 116 playoff games. Randymckay, also in my Ring of Honor. Next guy up, bobbyholik. Bobbyholik, again, 2-time Cup winner, 95 and 2000. 1/3 of that famous crash line. Great two-way player. He played 786 regular season games as a Devil and had 57 points in 124 playoff games played as a Devil. A lot of the times his assignment was to shut down the other team's best line. He got a lot of the tough matchups, whether he was going against Mario Lemieux, Matt Sundin, guys like that. On a nightly basis, Bobby had to bring it and be a menace and shut down the other team's top line, and he did that job very well. Bobbyholik, Ring of Honor worthy. And that rounds out actually all my 95, 2000 Cup winners. And now we move on to the crop of guys who won in 2000 and 2003. First on the list here, John Madden. John Madden won the Cup 2000 and 2003. 712 regular season games played as a New Jersey Devil, recording 41 points in 112 playoff games played. 112 playoff games played for Mad Dog. Another key piece in the cup runs. Great two-way center. Great burst of speed. A lot of you remember for some of his beautiful shorthanded goals. John Madden, super underrated in my opinion in Devils history. John Madden belongs in the ring. Next, two-time cup winner, Colin White. Colin White on the 2000 and 2003 cup teams. 743 games played as a New Jersey Devil regular season. And 111 playoff games played as a Devil, recording 16 points. Colin White, nasty stay-at-home defenseman, did his job well. Another guy that I think kind of flies under the radar to a lot of people in terms of team history. Always loved Whitey. Wish we had a couple defensemen like him on our current roster. But Colin White, another two-time champion, that belongs in the ring. Next guy up, Scott Gomez. Scott Gomez, a 2000 and 2003 Stanley Cup champion. He was the NHL's Rookie of the Year in 2000, winning the Calder Trophy with a 70-point year in his first year in the league as a young child, a baby-faced Gomer. 606 career regular season games played as a New Jersey Devil, and he had 65 points in 97 playoff games played as a New Jersey Devil. Scotty Gomez belongs in the ring. Next player, Brian Rafalski. Brian Rafalski also on the 2000 and 2003 Cup teams. 541 games played as a New Jersey Devil regular season, and he had 60 points in 102 playoff games as a New Jersey Devil. Again, another guy that not everyone, amidst all the Hall of Famers on those teams, not everyone thinks of Brian Rafalski, or his name doesn't maybe come to mind right away. Great offensive defenseman, great at moving the puck, great on the power play. Brian Rafalski belongs in the Ring of Honor with these guys. And now my last two-time Cup champ, Jay Pandolfo, 2000 and 2003 Cup champion, 819 career regular season games played as a New Jersey Devil, recording 33 points in 131 playoff games played as a New Jersey Devil. Pando, again, another depth guy, didn't always jump off the score sheet, but did his job and played it and did his job well. Depth role players are important on runs, and you're not winning cups without guys like Pando, Madden, etc. Loved by his teammates. Currently the head coach at Boston University. Jay Pandolfo, underrated Devil, belongs in the Ring of Honor. And then lastly, I have a couple guys that, I don't know if maybe it's personal bias or I loved them as a kid, but just guys that kind of stick out to me that only won one cup, but I do think should maybe garner consideration for the Ring of Honor is Peter Sikora and Jason Arnott. Both amazing players. Both played on the legendary A-line with Patrick Eliash, which was one of the best lines in the league for nearly 2 years. They all had insane numbers, insane chemistry. It was very saddened when the A-line eventually got disbanded. But I do think those are guys that are also very important in team history. And maybe if they don't get put in the ring separately, and I guess this goes for the Crash line as well, maybe we could put them in as a group, right? So it would be redundant for Patty, but maybe the Ring of Honor takes on something like the Crash line as like a legendary line, that the Crash line as a unit goes in the Ring of Honor, where we see Mike Peluso, randymckay, and bobbyholik put in as a line, and maybe the placard could read Crash line with their names, and maybe something like that could happen for the A-line as well. I don't know how the players would feel about that versus going in as an individual. That may be something, I don't know, that might be a weird issue for some players, I'm not sure. But if not Sikora and Arnott separately, I would love to see the A-line inducted into the Ring of Honor, as they have a super important place in team history, and I think it would be very fitting to put them in the Ring of Honor as well. So a lot of guys to consider here. What are your thoughts on the Ring of Honor? Who do you guys think should go in? I'm very curious to see the names. I've seen people post in different groups and things about their suggestions, but I personally, my number one emphasis is, did you win? And the list of guys I just rattled off were all not only one-time Stanley Cup champions of the Devils, two-time Stanley Cup champions of the Devils, and those guys to me will always be on a different level than the rest. You know, a lot of guys, people were saying Johnny McLean, and I suppose I could make the case for him to get in as well. But in the end, he does have, you know, great stats and things, but he was a one-time Cup champ, and he forced his way out of here before he won any more. And so while it may seem, I don't know, cutthroat or whatever you want to call it, I personally prioritize all of the guys I just named over a guy like Johnny Mack. You could keep all the stats. I'm looking for the guys that helped us hoist the cup. And these guys all were part of 2 Cup championship teams. So let me know in the comments what you guys think about the guys I mentioned. Who are some guys that I maybe left off, or who do you think should go in? But I think those guys are all super worthy. And I think they're only doing 1 a year or so for the next few years. So it'll be very interesting to see how they go about the rollout. And I guess you have to prioritize older guys. I mean, not to be morbid, but, you know, it's a shame that Pat Burns got inducted into the Hall of Fame after he passed. I think that was a real crime against him and his family. Not to say that any of these people are in poor health, but I suppose that, you know, putting in the older guys might make sense. So I don't know how that all plays out. I wish they would do more than 1 a year. 1 a year seems like, you know, you're going to be doing this forever, and I don't think it needs to be that drawn out. I mean, maybe 2 a year could be good. I mean, in my list right here, shit, I have 6. So I have 6 non-players. And 8, yeah, so I have 6 non-players, 8 players, and then a couple maybes. Yeah, you're talking about 14, 16 guys. It's a lot of guys to do 1 a year. I mean, you know, a lot of the people in the arena didn't even really weren't even really fans or around for the significance of Sarge or see him play. So I think as time goes on, that's going to be more of a thing, right? I'm 38, but I feel like an old man talking to a lot of these younger kids that didn't witness or weren't around for the heyday and the glory days of the New Jersey Devils. And all of these Ring of Honor things are going to be, you know, honoring guys that a lot of these people don't care about. So it is a whole very interesting dynamic. I don't know why there was that big gap between Dr. Mack and Sarge. They should have just kept going with it as they went, but that's neither here nor there. They've revived the whole Ring of Honor project now. So I'm curious to see who they put in. The committee is basically all of the retired guys and a few other people involved with the franchise and the current Ring of Honor guys as a committee. So I'd imagine that, you know, it's in good hands for them to determine who's going to go in. But I would love to see all the guys I named. 2-time Cup champs, can't go wrong. Let me know in the comments what you guys think and who you think should be in the ring. And do you think any of my picks are unworthy? Let me know. Love talking to you guys in the comments and hearing opinions of all different kinds. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. Until next time, friends, let's go Devils.